If you have a speaking gig coming up, you need to make sure that you're documenting it properly for social media. That means photos and videos of the event that you can use later on in multiple capacities. Now, I recently did a speaking gig where I was entirely by myself and had to document both photos and videos of myself speaking at the event entirely on my own. So let's break down some tips and tricks on how you can make sure you're getting the right footage and photos of your events, even if you do not have a team helping you, and make it look like you had proper documentation from people assisting you along the way. The most important thing you should remember is that you should be creating content both before and during your speech. In almost every case, you're going to have access to the stage before you give your speech, if for nothing else other than a sound check, unless you're at one of those major conventions that just has the stage going all the time and will not allow you access to it, but you should be able to show up early and create content. With my recent event, I showed up early before anybody else was there, and I was able to set up both my cameras and my phones to record and take photos of myself, and I just reiterated what I would be saying inside of my speech. I recreated those things so that I would have access to that content. I focused on taking photos because I wasn't going to have time to take photos while I was on stage later. I was going to focus on video later on. So I made sure I got photos looking at the camera, looking away from the camera, and fake talking. Now, my trick for fake talking is actually really helpful, so I want you to take note of this one. As we have conversations, we're having actual conversations, and the words and the sounds that we form with our mouth tend to make us look a little weird when people are taking screenshots, or when they're pausing videos, or when they're taking photos of us, so we can fake it out a little bit. All you have to do is do an open mouth smile. Just make sure your teeth are separated, but you've got your cheeks up and you're smiling. You're going to talk with your hands, and as you are doing that, you just pause in the moment and take the photo. It looks like you're in the middle of saying something, but your face looks a lot better than if you just randomly took photos while you were having conversations. Now, another thing that you can do is recreate sections of your speech for video. This is where you're going to set up your camera device and you're going to record yourself in little snippets for social media. This can be 30 seconds, it can be 15 seconds, it could be a minute and a half. Just pick one tiny section of your speech that you're going to be giving later, or something that's going to sound like a good highlight, and say it to an audience. So set up your camera devices, your phones, or whatever, and film yourself as you are moving around, just giving those little sections of commentary as if it's from the middle of your speech. Do this a couple of times and you'll have a couple of really great clips for social media later on, to put on your YouTube channel or whatever, to show off the highlight reel of what you are creating. And because it's directly from the speech that you're going to be giving, it works with the conversation that you're going to have later, and most people won't catch that you filmed it in advance, even if a few words are going to be different. Now, with that in mind, you also want to make sure that you are creating enough content that you don't have to worry about it later on. And this way, during the in-the-moment conversations you are having, you're just getting whatever video footage you need from a further away location. So while you're creating your before videos and photos, this is going to be closer up. Your camera sources will be closer to you. The room will be empty, so you don't have to compete with an audience and the noise that they are creating as they're listening. And you want to get that closer up content. That then parlays into the further away content once you have your speech in motion. So your camera sources will be moved further out for your during conversation. This will allow you to show off the heads of your audience members. Usually you're going to shoot from the back so you don't see faces and you just see you on stage, but it shows the audience that's there, and you're going to move things further out so they're out of people's way. So beforehand, you're getting those posed and created images and videos up close, and then during, you are getting the in the moment from a further away so that you've got lots of options as you're creating your content. Now, if you don't have anybody to help you, you do want to work with tripods and remote shutter releases. Typically, you're going to want taller tripods that can get your camera source on eye level, but you can also work with smaller things if you know you're going to have access to tables, or you can use things like tracking tripods, which then attach to the bigger tripods and will follow you around on stage to look like you've got a team documenting on your behalf. So you want to employ anything that you have access to make this steady, stable content that you're creating, or to track you across the stage with those tracking devices, which we've got videos on here on the channel if you need recommendations to find out what's going to be the best fit for you as you're creating content, specifically if you were creating this content entirely by yourself, like I did at my recent event. If you're limited on devices to document your day, make sure you're prioritizing video. This is going to be incredibly important because you cannot recreate that video, but you can recreate photos before or after your event. So focus on on your videos, and hey, you can even take screenshots of your videos if you need photos later on, which is something that I did. I set up multiple phones and cameras, and then I was able to just take some screenshots or record from that video of that in the moment talking, which means we avoid some of the weird faces that you would be taking during photos if you were doing that while you were doing your actual speech. So focus on video, prioritize that, and then you can get imagery before, after, or as screenshots from the video later on. You need to make sure that you're aware of your lighting, your posing, and your outfit during your content creation. You need to make sure that you are posed in ways that are going to make you look good on camera, which is why it's so incredibly important to test in advance. By creating content before your speech, you're going to know how to angle yourself toward your cameras in order to document yourself in the best light while you're on stage, while you're having these conversations. Do not leave this to chance. Make sure that you actively get staged content so that you know you at least have that to look good in and use on social media after the fact, even if your in the moment content doesn't go quite as well. Do not leave any of this to chance. Check your content before you leave the venue. You can recreate most things. If you go through it and decide you don't have what you need, you can recreate things in the moment before you walk out the door. But once you leave, you can't go back and fix it. So make sure you know how things work, what your lighting is like, what your devices are going to be doing, your posing, your angling, and how you're going to be creating this content, and make sure you test and check before you walk out of the building. If you want to level up your content creation to make it look like you have a team documenting you, you do want to use multiple devices. If you just set up one phone or one camera and film yourself straight on or from one angle, you're only going to have that footage to work with. But if you film with multiple devices, a camera and a phone, several phones, an old phone and your new phone, you have the ability to then splice things together and get things from different angles. So you can create a higher level, elevated video or photo content of what you're doing. So use multiple devices whenever possible. Use things like tracking tripods to move things along as well. And if you're doing that documentation before your event, because you're by yourself, you have the ability to move things around. So take photos and video clips from different angles. Move your tripod around every single time to make it look like you had a team documenting on your behalf, even if you're doing it entirely on your own. And then just pick really strategic locations for when you are going to just let your cameras roll while you are on stage. And then you can splice all of these things together to make it look higher end. And because you want to be creative with your content, you need to make sure that as you're giving your speech, you're moving around and engaging with your audience. Because if your feet are glued to the exact same spot and your documentation is not moving, you'll always have the exact same background, the exact same poses, and you're not going to have a variety of pieces of content you can use out on social media. So move. Pick your feet up and walk a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. You're going to move yourself around so that even with the documentation that is steady because it's on a tripod, because you're doing it by yourself and no one's helping you, it looks like you've got different angles. So move around, get the different angles, then you can crop things differently, and it's going to look like you've had a higher level of documentation for this event. Now, if you want more tips and tricks on how you can be documenting your events entirely by yourself or with a team, drop those questions down below, and make sure that you're paying attention, because I'm going to start dropping footage from when I was doing that speech all by myself last week so that you can kind of see how I've documented things together. You saw a little bit of it today, but you're going to want to make sure that you're sticking around for more on my author platform, where I'm going to break down everything you need to know about how I did that speech. Drop your questions and comments and hit the subscribe and notification bell, because every single day we're dropping brand new content to help you level up on your social media, save time and effort creating your content, and being able to run your business way more efficiently without the time and stress investing into spending a ton of time creating that content so you can grow your business and create more profit on your social media. I'll see you in the next episode.